Hi, DJ. What a surprise. It's nice to see you. Okay. I see you're holding the bathroom key. I don't know what that means.
It means that she just came back from there.
Okay.
So we have
All right.
Gina online and Jamie. Who?
Online. And Peggy's
Peggy.
here. Peggy's already taken care of. She
And
should be able to
Melissa,
just come in and
yeah.
sit down.
Yeah, Peggy's
And
all set.
Peggy's
Melissa
here.
is coming. Ron LeMay is going to be a little
Do
bit
we have enough
late.
chairs now?
Yes.
Even with DJ?
With your separation from one another, you have leg room. You can bring in a desk. You can do many things with this.
No
Now you're
beds.
pushing it on that one. It feels like 100 years, by the way, since we've stood here. And so I am so glad for people like Peggy and people like Melissa
Peggy.
and people suggested that we
At least
do
attempt
this,
this.
give it its college try, as it were, because we were going to talk to everybody on Zoom about it tonight, and then we said, we might as well just do it. Do it,
All
you know?
right. So,
So,
okay. So who's missing? Charles?
or
The
did
chat
somebody,
is working.
Is somebody already do it? Oh,
good.
Jamie. Everybody wave to
Hi.
Jamie.
Yay.
And Melissa's parking. Good.
Melissa's parking.
So let's
All right.
see our little list. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Charles is 7. And did you say there's 8?
Ron has the list.
Will you talk to the good people here?
Yeah, hold on. Why? I don't know what to say. Besides, the reason we had to start this is because Rob has it on some kind of timer. Next week, we're going to ask him to put the timer at 5 after. We have to follow the
More
rules.
rules. Sue Wood.
Sue Wood.
Gina's online. Ronald's coming. Jamie's online. Melissa's in the parking lot. Emma, Peggy. There's Melissa's in the parking lot, but now she's through the door. Charles and Ron Stover's here. Good.
Okay, well, then we'll start.
Yeah, we will.
All right. So, because it is time to start.
It is.
All right. If people want to be late, they'll be late.
So we need to talk one thing when Melissa sits down, because it's important. It decides whether or not we stay here or we go to Zoom.
Because we're not going to do this if
Because
there's a
I'm
lot
not
of
playing
stress
anything
involved.
unless we're all in the same boat. If we're paranoid, frightened, Zoom we go. Okay? I just want to make sure of everybody that we're all on the same thing. We're treating this like Sundays. And this is what Sunday looks like.
Okay, so we need to do 6 feet.
Well, what do we think you have your chairs like that? That's right. Okay.
Right. So, but I'm saying that but it's got to be stress-free. So, everyone be very aware. Rob does not want anyone hugging him, and he needs to have his mask on because that's what he wants to do. We have masks next to us, on us, whatever. Melissa's made it clear, don't go anywhere near 6 feet to her. And I don't know how everybody else is. But I live in a very paranoid world right now, and I can't do it in here. I just can't. Okay? We're doing this to see if we can ease into it. So everybody just be respectful of one another. If you come near me to hug me, I'm fine. But that's Patrick. And we're also on private channel. On Sunday, this would not be. This is our own little private room in here and private thing. Okay.
So I'm going to grab my mask because I don't have it before you pray in. Oh, you're going to do announcements, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So here's announcements. Thursday actually, is Reverend Diane's Thursday at 4. We've gone to the last, you've been there too, right, Sue? And it's been very, very wonderful. And that's on Thursdays at 4. You go to the website, you pay your $10, and then you get your stuff and you go in. Friday is a very exciting concert with Daniel, Jeremy and Amy, Daniel, Nelson, and Jeevan.
And Barbara Davis.
Barbara Davis. And that's at 6:30. No audience. There are no audiences right now. I know that they made the announcement during our practitioner meeting that on Friday, the 22nd, haircuts are opening, horseback riding, zip lining, and churches. Yeah, so we won't be opening this week, but just on that same note, we have to really sit down with ourselves and with the board to see if we can really open. I'm talking about CSL Kauai. They're all opening. But this is how I did not envision us opening. I've envisioned the door opening and everybody running in and hugging one another and returning to CSL Kauai. Now, I am willing to be convinced otherwise of it by the board. It's not just Rita, but the board on Tuesday. We're going to talk about it. And then we'll go with the class. But it's good. We need to get this
Put it
discussed.
this way, Patrick and I have been under a lot of stress for the last 2.5 months, and we're not going to add any more stress to it. It's taken everything that we have 24/7 to keep the center awake and alive and running. And when they said, "Oh, you can go back to Sunday services," we were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
You
it
know,
kinda threw
so
me.
we want to take my word, we want to, but we also don't want to stress ourselves out or stress anybody out. We want it to be like what Patrick said. That's the way we want to come back. So we all need to do a lot of work in our consciousness to see that happening and to envision that happening, to see the world the way we want it, not the way we're being dictated that it has to be. You know what I mean? And we have to be, because we have to follow the rules. We don't want them shutting our center down. But we just don't want to be under a lot of stress, you know? And if we were to open on Sunday and they would say socially distance, we would only probably be able to fit maybe 50 people in here if we social distance. And then what's that going to
And
look
you'd
like?
have to have reservations.
You know, you'd have to
and then you
reserve.
have
It's a
to-
big deal.
So anyway, we're working on it.
working on it.
I was very excited to hear that. I could even do the social distancing, probably like we're doing right now, but a room full of this. But I don't think I could stare at everybody with a mask on. I don't think I just don't know how I would be able to. I guess I could do anything to bring us back together. But we also know, and I've been told, that people that we know and love, they're not going to follow it. They're gonna come in and they're going to, you know, they probably won't hug because that's, you know, everybody's so instilled in fear of one another. But they're not going to wear a mask. Some of the people, so we can't do it.
We just, you know, you see we see what we're saying. So I hope you're,
That's part of the thing, you can get together, but you have to wear masks.
right,
Right.
exactly. So, you know,
So we'll work it just to let you guys know who doesn't watch the news and see that this occurred. It happened yesterday. So
well, if anybody asks you if we're opening on Sunday, we're not. Well, I mean, we'll continue to live stream until we figure it out. We just need to figure it out. We have to even look at the CDC rules and see what they are before. Michelle's doing that for us, by the way, to look and see what is expected of churches when they open.
it's a
so-
list a mile long.
It's a list a mile long, right?
Yeah.
So,
And some of it I can fudge with. Like I'm not going to be cleaning around you or having a lot of people doing all that around you. That's not going to happen. So that one you can kind of get past. I mean, I'm talking
like
about scrubbing
crazy.
around but I'm going to honor it, and that you can get away with. Have hand sanitizer that still hasn't come to the island yet, but the one that we made. And there's gloves at the door. There's face masks. All of that. I'm willing to do all of that. Well, we are, but I'm just trying to picture it. You all
okay,
sit
so
there.
you kind of see where we're at.
And they
So
said that
just
we
pray.
don't. They said we don't have to wear them, us, because how would you understand the ministers or the priests or anything if we were all in masks?
I tried to order my food tonight.
When you watch the news, the reporters are wearing masks.
I know. Anyway, let's start on a different.
More than likely, they have microphones underneath their masks or something, or high tech. You know.
They're high tech.
Okay, so
That's the exciting news.
We're going to pray in, but does everybody understand where we're at? Do you get it? You don't look very happy, but especially DJ, she looks like. She's like okay.
Well, it's good to know that we've been watching via Facebook that it has not looked like lockdown to me. It has looked more like vacation in paradise without tourists. That's pretty much what I have observed. It's like everybody's not feeling at all sorry for anybody on this island from off island. They're like, is that them up at the mountain again? Is that them? Are they swimming? And then you're out going, ah. So it is.
Thank God.
This is a long 5 minutes I've ever had.
All right. Well, why don't you pray us in,
I
honey?
will.
All right.
So good to see all of you, little wonderful people you. So let's just take a moment to allow the real thing to come forth right now, the real thing to be known, the thing that is the absolute truth of everything, beyond the masks, beyond the hand sanitizers, beyond the fear, beyond everything. What I do know is that at the center there is something that is afraid of nothing, because it is everything. And I'm just taking a moment right now with everyone in this room to recognize who I am. And I am that love. And as I know that for myself, that to know that the very cosmos, the moon, the sun, everything that has ever been is who I am. And as I know this for myself, I know that I am not alone. I am not isolated, because everyone in this room is unified as one. This whole planet is unified no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, no matter what our beliefs are. We can never get past the one truth, and that is that each and every one of us is connected. So what I know about tonight is I celebrate this perhaps small number of individualized expressions. But I know tonight we're taking a peek, and we will the next 8 weeks, at how this all began and how we can incorporate the New Thought fathers and mothers and all the spirits that were in rebellion. Perfect time to have this class. Spirits in rebellion. Spirits that know that whatever the world of conditions say, there is more. There is more light. There is more energy. The quantum field, the quantum energy is right here, right now. And I celebrate it. I celebrate it with every fiber of my being, knowing that each and every one of us is wrapped in a safety of love, a mask of invisible mask of protection at all times. And that goes out from step to step, from moment to moment, from breath to breath. So I celebrate tonight, and I know that it unfolds easily, effortlessly, lovingly, gracefully, easily. And we're just taking that moment to go deep and marinate in spirit, marinate in this thing called love, this wonderful, unseen, seen protector. So with that, I just relax into it and let this evening unfold, knowing that it has already been done in the mind of good and that it has already been deemed successful. So with that, I just celebrate, knowing that I am dropping this now in and from the law of my being that has already said, yes, it is done. As together we celebrate with the affirmation of, and so it is.
So it is.
Wow.
Thank you, honey. That calmed us all down.
It's just so funny to be here and actually look at people to think, because on Sundays when we're sitting, you'll be going, oh, righty. There's like nothing. Cricket. All right, I'm turning this over to Rev Rita, and I'm going jogging. No, I'm just
I got so much papers. Going up to one of your mouths. So I just wanted to, first of all, we renamed this class. It's actually called Roots, ROOTS. So if anybody in Science of Mind asks you, it's also called From Whence We Came. They're both 2 different classes. We just changed the name and shifted the curriculum a little bit to make sure you get the information. But the original curriculum is so overwhelming that the times that we've taught it, we've never been able to do everything they asked us to do, and it was just ridiculous. So, and it hasn't been updated since 2008. So we figured that we just, as long as you got the information, that's all that would matter. And with that in mind, I'm going to recommend, there's several things I'm going to recommend, but I would recommend if there's any way you can find this book called Spirits in Rebellion, if you can, where did you find it? Amazon. Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it was high.
I think I have one copy that I could sell for like, no, I think I have one copy I could sell somewhere, but it's on the screen. Okay. You can also, I don't know if it's available in Kindle, if you can find it used somewhere. What was the name of that book place? A Libris book. Are they still in existence? They used to sell used books. But the reason I'm recommending it, for especially for those of you who are going to go on, is that it's a wonderful reference book for all different sorts of things that have to do that you would be tested on in the future, or that you might need to know about. So I'm just recommending it. I didn't ask you to get it for this class because I didn't think it was possible. The other book that I'm not recommending, but we'll see as we go, is that if you fall in love with Phineas Quimby, to get the Quimby manuscripts. And then the Emerson essays, you can find them online. So, and we're only going to do 2 of them. We're going to do Self-Reliance and Oversouls. And actually, Roseanne Jones is going to teach that class. So we're excited about that because she loves Emerson. And then the other thing that I thought would be helpful, and I don't know if we want to do it together at some point, is to watch the film, What is New Thought? Because it's a great overview. Yeah, has anybody seen it? Yeah, maybe we can watch it together. It would have to be not on a class night. It would have to be another night. We could have a separate night and just for social distance and watch that film. So I think we'll do that because I think it will help. Because like what I'm going to do tonight and what Patrick's going to do tonight is just like a little overview, and we don't have the time to go into depth. So you're going to hear things that you might want to research further yourself to know about them more, because there's no way that we could go into each thing in depth. And then if you look at this syllabus, we're gonna do like an overview of New Thought tonight, and here. Okay, we're going to go over New Thought tonight, and then next week Patrick's going to do Anton Mesmer, and then after that, does everybody know who he is?
I'm going to be hypnotizing.
Yeah,
everyone.
Patrick's the perfect person to do Anton Mesmer, and then Roseanne's going to come and do Ralph Waldo Emerson, and that's when you'll have to have read the Oversoul and Self-Reliance. So if you want to start reading them now, you can, and put your questions down and all that. And then I am going to do Phineas Quimby, and I am going to give you a handout for that, like something to read out of the Quimby manuscript so we can like kind of discuss it. And then you're doing Thomas Troward, right? Yep. And then Patrick will do Thomas Troward. I'll do Emma Curtis, Hopkins, and put Miss Baker Eddy in there. And then we're going to do a night of Divine Science, which is Nona and Brooks and Melinda Kramer. I don't know why I didn't put Brooks there. It's Nona Brooks and Melinda Kramer. And then we're going to just kind of glance over Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And then your final project is going to be to give us a 5-minute talk on healing and how you can apply what you learned from the mystics in this class to your practice of spiritual mind treatment. So your talk will be about that, and like something that you can take away from this whole time. Maybe there's a certain person that resonated to you that you feel was powerful and made something click for you. I don't know. It's up to you. That's what we're doing for the final project this time. Okay, and so that will be done in 8 weeks. What else? I think that's it.
I want to interject here because this is kind of what I wanted with this this class. It's about healing for me. That's my personal intention and our thing about taking these people, especially like a Phineas Quimby, Emma Curtis Hopkins. And so taking what we've already learned up to now and really actually, as Michelle would call them, because she just finished them in ministerial, she said, these are our badasses from the past that gave us a really, really powerful thing. And so I want to see at the end of it, us all incorporating this in to spiritual mind treatment. Because when we really deal how they were healing so long ago, and with more successes than anything else, especially Phineas when she does him. But I'm just saying that they were no nonsense, and that's what I think that all of us are, especially now we've learned that, we're at a no nonsense part of our lives, of digging deep, but now saying this is when it's going to click for us, whatever that means for you individually. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. It's true. That is. Because as we've had time to marinate, as Patrick says, during this whole COVID thing, we've realized that what our center is really about is going to be, we said, what's the one thing that this center is about? And it's going to be about spiritual mind treatment, because we feel, and healing, because we feel like it's the one thing that really, really needs to be emphasized that nobody's really emphasizing. Like, we listen to all different things, and this is our healing modality, and it works. I use it continually, and it works. I demonstrate on a daily basis. So, and sometimes it takes me a while to demonstrate, but it still works. And so it's the one thing we have to give the world that everybody can use. It doesn't cost anything. It's not like you have to have a practitioner, and I mean, you have a practitioner because they're practiced in it and because they've trained their minds to be able to work for another person. But in reality, it's free. I mean, spiritual mind treatment is free. It's your innate ability to move the energy within yourself in the direction that you want to move it. That's what it is, basically. I mean, it's moving energy for a definite purpose in the direction of your choice. That's spiritual mind treatment. If anybody asks you what it is, that's like the simplest definition, that is a movement of energy. So, and what is energy but thought, right? So, anyway, that being said, we're going to do a little overview of what is New Thought. So, I love that picture. So when I was reading through Spirits in Rebellion and other places, it was explaining how during the 18th century and beginning at the 18th century and beyond that, there was like an expansion happening in our country. And people were beginning to get new ideas, and they were beginning to like want to go west, And I thought about that statement, when the east comes to the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And I thought we were just in this place of birthing and expanding, and it wasn't good enough to stay in our own little worlds. And so there was...
Sorry,
Yes.
honey, I'm just trying to get in, and this one looked a little close. So I wanted,
Hi, Ronald.
do you want this over here? You can have this?
We just started, Ronald. I think you have a paper on your thing with books on it and stuff.
There you go. No,
Okay.
that's it, yeah.
So it was a time of newness. It was a time of expansion when all of this started happening. And it was all actually happening back east, which is really interesting to me, because now when we look for New Thought churches back east, centers, there really aren't any. I mean, there's a couple. But for some reason, that's where it all started, and there's nothing much left there. Now, we've always thought of going, why? I don't know. There's an answer, I'm sure. We kept thinking, well, sometimes Easterners are very kind of stuck in the old world way. This is the way we do it. I don't know. But anyway, New Thought was like the first, it was like when the first, we call them like American religions came into being. American philosophies came into being, but they weren't really new because they were coming from from other cultures and other parts of the world, but they were being embraced as American religions, American philosophies. And I don't know if you're familiar with Mormonism, but Mormonism came into being around this time too, when Joseph Smith had his vision in upstate New York. It was in the 1800s. And there was a movement called spiritualism, which was, Phineas Quimby was accused of being a spiritualist, and he says, I am not a spiritualist. And those were people that just had communication with the dead, and that was basically the way they dealt with spirituality, was getting messages from the dead and healing from messages from the dead, and blah, blah, blah. It was communication with the departed. And that Eastern thought started coming to the Americas. There's something called the Theosophical Society, and you can look that up if you want. But the major thing was, and mesmerism. Mesmerism kind of was before the Phineas Quimby spiritualism thing. It came right about a little bit before that. But one of the major things that was happening is that they were centered around healing disease. Now you can imagine why, because back in those days, what was the medical profession doing? burning witches, but yeah, they were putting bugs on your skin and leeching and doing all kinds of weird stuff, right? So people were desperate, and people were dying of diseases that, tuberculosis was a big thing back then. So, and there was a lot of probably plagues like COVID-19, but they were called different names, right? But so it's the one thing that is that they were centered on healing disease. That was their major thing. They really weren't centered on healing like your prosperity at the beginning. It was all about your body and disease. So, yeah. So mesmerism, which we will talk about when Patrick does Anton Mesmer later. So, what is New Thought? So there is a definition that there's a lot of definitions, and I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you Ernest Holmes' definition, and I'm also going to give you a page of what is New Thought with all different kinds of definitions of it. So you can take that home and study it. But what is New Thought? This was the first, basically, kind of informal New Thought group, and if you ever get asked on it on a test, it wasn't the Transcendentalists, it was the Metaphysical Club of Boston, all right? And you can look that up. But today, that Metaphysical Club of Boston is what is known as the International New Thought Alliance. And the International New Thought Alliance still exists. It is a big organization. We don't happen to be members of it, but we should be, and we will be. It's the umbrella for all the different New Thought people, like divine science, agape, religious science, unity. All of them are, and other branches of New Thought. And it's the International New Thought Alliance. And you can look that up online and find their website. Somebody could look up and see how much it would cost us to join if they want, and come back with that next week. So anyway, they have a definition. I have C handout. I must be this handout. What?
I always go whenever I want to look up, I always talk about Melissa and we go, there's the detective.
It's funny. I'm going to pass these out now. I know people don't want to touch them. How do we do that? I'll throw them in the middle of the floor and you can come pick them up yourself. What? Okay, I don't know.
Do they have to have it right now?
Well, I don't want them to start reading it yet, but yes. Yes, I do want them to have it because we are going to read it in a minute. Okay. Make sure I get one, though.
Yeah, that would be
Okay. To promote interest in the practice of a true philosophy of life and happiness, to show that through right thinking, one's loftiest ideals may be brought into present realization, and to advance intelligent and systematic treatment of disease by spiritual and mental works. That is how they define New Thought. And if you look at that handout, can I have one of them, though, because I didn't save one? We can just read a couple of them. We won't read all of them. Let's just pick one. Pick one on the first page, somebody. Ronald, read.
As a philosophy of life, it takes for its fundamental reality.
You can't hold it. Wait.
Okay. As a philosophy of life, it takes from its fundamental reality the idea of God as immanent, indwelling spirit, all wisdom, all goodness, ever present in the universe as a warm, tender father, and not as a cold abstraction. Evil can then have no place in the world of permanent reality and power. It is not denied that it exists now, but only as an accompaniment of incompleteness, a negative quantity, the absence of good. Sin and moral evil are largely an ignorant selfishness, ignorant of the almighty love under whose divine providence all things work together for good to those who obey its law.
Thank you. So that's a big thing in New Thought about evil not existing. Not that it doesn't exist, but that it's the inversion of good, basically. It's the absence of good. And you'll study that more when you study Emma Curtis Hopkins. It's not that they don't, and if you think about Ernest Holmes, he says evil is an experience on the soul's journey back to itself. It's an experience, but it's not really a reality in that it's not like, it has nothing to support it unless we support it. So, and when they're talking about evil, they're not talking about like, ooh, bad, wicked witch of the West or whatever. They're talking about anything that is not serving the highest good of the world, of you, You know, any thoughts that are degrading to you, anything that would put you down, anything that would be you living less than the greatest life possible would be evil. Does that make sense? If somebody asks you what evil is, but so it's the absence of good, but really that all there is good. Somebody want to read another one? Sue, which one? Okay.
Without a formal creed, it stands for the practice of the presence of God, reduced to scientific method.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do we start over? Yeah. Okay. Without a formal creed, it stands for the practice of the presence of God, reduced to a scientific method of living a selfless life through the union with a power that is love in action, a power which can bring sweetness and light and peace to people, rob death of its sting and pain of its poignancy, take terror out of disease, and crowns life with the joy and health and abundance which are the rightful inheritance of every child of God.
Like, who wouldn't want that? Right? I mean, sometimes I go to myself, like, who wouldn't want to be part of New Thought? Because it wouldn't be like you would have to give up even your own religion or anything. I mean, even the Swami at the Hindu monastery gets it. I mean, he gets it. This is the same thing that he teaches in Hinduism, you know? So I go, wow, we need to like just live this so that everybody can be moved by it, so that we can help people, especially at times like this. Do you have anything to add? Nope. Somebody want to read another one on the first page, and then we'll.
First and most important, the belief that ideals are realities and that all primary causes are internal forces. Mind is primary and causative, while matter is secondary and resultant. The children of men are living souls now, children of God, spiritual citizens of a divine universe. As a method of healing bodily disease, and as a cure for social ills and a remedy for all defect and disorder is metaphysical, beyond the physical, in the realm of causes which are mental and spiritual. It neither denies sickness nor pain, but holds that they are not positive realities, rather negative conditions, the lack of ease, of harmony, of health.
Very good. So,
DJ, do you want to do one more?
you want to do one more?
I saw you had your eye on one.
Does it have to be on the first page? Or? All right. From the first constitution of the International New Thought Alliance, to teach the infinitude of the Supreme One, the divinity of man and his infinite possibilities through the creative power of constructive thinking and obedience to the voice of the indwelling presence, which is our source of inspiration, power, health, and prosperity.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful. And you could see where these things come in our philosophy, right? I mean, the whole idea, what was the one that Sue read? Which one was it, Sue? Because there was something I was going to say. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yeah. So practicing the presence of God reduced to a scientific method. In other words, that we're practicing the presence of God within us, and it's scientific because we can prove it through using spiritual mind treatment, through using our thoughts correctly, through filling our life with the feeling behind it, obviously, is the most important thing. But the most important thing is that idea of that we go to first cause first. First cause, that's what we create from. First cause, not from the conditional world. We can't release the COVID-19 virus if we're trying to release it from itself. We got to release it from within here, from within our consciousness, and start. That's why I was saying, like, as far as us getting back together, we need to go back to first cause. It's never known anything like this, and decide how we want to design our world, and treat for that, and how we want it to look, how we want to feel more than anything, not even how we want it to look, because we don't know how it's going to look, but we do know how we want to feel, right? We want to feel free. We want to feel healthy. We want to feel like safe. We want to feel loving toward each other. So we just go for those things when we're treating from first cause as if it's never been touched by anything, because it isn't, and those are innate qualities of spirit, are those qualities that we're talking about. Freedom is an innate quality of a spontaneous being that we are. I mean, that's freedom of choice is our whole thing, freedom of volition. So
I think
yeah.
a good example of the consciousness that's going on right now on this island, this newest thing with the mayor, for the 22nd, pushing for that, that's 2 weeks before it was supposed to be. And so to me, that tells me that consciousness is starting to shift a little, enough to, go, oh, wait a minute. And I can see it, even in New York, numbers dropping now that were not dropping before. 50% has dropped of new cases, and this da-da-da-da. So it is consciousness and people believing, not about how am I going to get you to act different, but more like, I think I'm done with this in consciousness. Not, I'm done with this, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm done with this, right? Not that kind of, I'm done. And for New York to take that kind of a plummeted 50%, there's kind of like enough is enough. And so the healing's starting to happen. So I just think that we're more powerful than we think we are within this, because we're trapped within rules and things appear out there. But I think and I know that we're more powerful. The vibratory field is more is bigger than we think it is by what we're just even in this room,
Right, and that's what's going to get us out of this. And it
Through
doesn't
it.
mean throw off your mask and don't break the rules and all of that. It means start thinking about how you want it to be and how you want to be and how you want to live without enforcing it on anybody else, but just how do you want to see this world? And I do believe in this, how do I say it? That there's different planes of consciousness, and we're all going to choose which plane of consciousness we want to live in, and our world's going to reflect it. And I don't know how it's going to look, but it's going to reflect how we choose to live it, what plane of consciousness we decide to live on. So anyway, beliefs of new thought. So all primary causes are internal forces, so everything comes from within us, like just what we were just talking about. Primary causes, first cause, are internal forces. They're not on the outside, they're internal. Mind is primary and causative, while matter is secondary and resultant. So you can, like, it's like when Joe Dispenza says, you could try to change matter with matter, but it's not going to be lasting.
Take a while.
It's going to take a while, and it's probably not going to be lasting. But you have to go back to first cause, and then you get the results from first cause. Matter is the secondary or resultant. Or Emma Curtis Hoffman would say, and other people would say, mind and matter are one thing. They're just one thing. It's not like I do this and then this happens. I do this and it's already happening. I'm causing it by it happening. I was going to say something else about that, but I can't remember what it was. Okay, the children of men, they use the masculine tense, sorry. The children of men and women are children of God, spiritual citizens of a divine universe. I think we just read that. The remedy for all defect and disorder is metaphysical, beyond the physical, in the realm of causes, which are mental and spiritual. They are not positive realities, but negative conditions, lack of ease, of harmony. I don't think that's a complete sentence. Yeah, you understood what I mean, right? That he's saying that the result or the world of conditions are not positive realities. They're just lack of ease or harmony or absence of good. A philosophy of life, it's not a religion with dogma. That is a big thing. So if anybody ever comes to you and says, we've had this happen because people are saying, well, can you sign a piece of paper for me so I don't have to have a vaccine? We can't do that. We don't teach that. We teach that you're a choice, but we don't have like a dogma that says you aren't going to get a vaccine because that's like, we're not Christian scientists.
Christian Science does
would say that, and they'd be able to go back to and they'd be able to sign something and say it's against my religious belief. Now, I don't know how you all stand on vaccines, and I don't want to get into it right now, but INTA membership, he's looked it up, For a personal membership, it's $75. For a group, it's $150. That's all? Oh my God.
What have we been
What have we
waiting for,
been waiting
CSL
for?
Kauai?
Yeah, we need to be a member.
Who are those spiritual leaders?
Anyway, so I don't know how I got into vaccines, but I'll go away from there.
Because you were talking about dogma.
Oh, dogma. Yeah, we don't have any dogma. We don't have rules. Like we don't say you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. You know, we don't do that. It's always your choice. God is immanent, indwelling presence. Yes. Yes. It means within. I think it.
I know. Somebody else, we had this in the class, right? So
Let's look it up. Look it
let's-
up. I don't know. I think of it as indwelling.
Uh,
Oh, you don't want to get on it right now. Ron, can you look up in that word and see if we spelt it right?
Maybe the guy who put 150
I think I cut
and
and pasted it,
75,
so-
he can.
I cut and paste it, so this imminent. Just look
I
it
have a
up.
feeling this came up in another class.
I think it means within, though. There's eminent, imminent.
I wonder if it's the same and not. Oh. Eminent.
Ron will look it up. Evil is the absence of good. It is not a permanent reality, right? Because it can change. It's just an experience on the journey soul back to
So
itself.
we want to know that God is eminent and indwelling.
Well, it's the same thing it means indwelling. I know that, whether we spelt it wrong or not.
Is the existing or operating within.
Ah,
The protection of liberties is immanent in constitutional arrangements.
So like it's within something, it's imminent, it's within.
she paid extra.
I don't know how she got on.
God permanently pervading and sustaining the universe.
Huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Thanks for actually asking that, because I'm
This
sure
is
it'll come
good,
up again.
guys. Keep all these notes because these things will be on tests. Okay. Divine humanity, a human brotherhood, and a divine fatherhood. You know, that sounds like really something to me. But I think what they're trying to say is that we're all divine, that we're all related to each other under one God. You know, it sounds a little
you see?
dualistic. Yeah. I'm going to stand back here because I have the same thing written down. I don't have to stand in front of it then. The next one is present and progress. Okay, this is a good one. Present and progressive revelation of truth, prophets of God in all ages. So in other words, truth revelators didn't stop with Moses and and Jesus and people like that, or Buddha or whatever. We're all revelators. We all have that opportunity to be revelators. So we're not. It didn't stop, because there's a lot of religions that say, "Oh, that was that back then," but now nobody has that ability anymore. So that New Thought does not believe that. And there's no formal creed. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. What does the word creed mean to you? Creed, I guess there's no.
Rules, regulations,
Yeah, there's no set of beliefs.
values.
But I don't think that's really true, because there is a creed in a way. If we look at our beliefs, our declaration of beliefs, but maybe not a creed in the way they're thinking, like everybody has to believe the same way or something like that. It stands for the practice of the presence of God, reduced to a scientific method of living a selfless life through union with a power that is love in action. I like that one. And brings, I think we read these already, brings sweetness and light to people, robs death of its sting though not specifically denying its reality, and takes the terror out of disease, crowns life with the joy and health and abundance that are rightful inheritance of every child of God.
Well, you'll have the
You have that one sheet I
You'll
gave
also
you.
have it sent to
I'll
you.
send you
We
this.
send the whole.
Yeah, I send it out.
It's interesting. I just wanted to comment about the terror of disease. I think it's called takes the terror out of disease. That's a biggie, right? It takes the terror out of diagnosis. It takes the terror out of people we know that are going through this right now, and it just to have the terror. We were discussing the other day, and it was. I hope I don't get too comfortable sitting. But we were talking the other day that one of the biggest things about what's happening with this now is it's made us look at death. And at the end of the day, what the biggest fear is
We're going to die.
that we're going to die. And then once I did some work on that with myself, I went, you know, no matter what, Patrick, did you know in this experience, this earth, but you are going to die. From what they call die. I'll never die because I'll live forever. But I thought, and it took the sting out of this whole thing. It didn't mean that I walk in front of a car. It just meant, oh, I have to remember the truth. And the truth is I never died and I was never not here because I'm first cause. So it takes that sting out of, you know, and somebody said, well, if you were given a diagnosis tomorrow of something, forget COVID, I'm talking about cancer or something like that, how would you feel about that? I said, well, I'd have to know the same thing today as I knew that. It would take the terror out of disease. And the only time, I just heard this beautiful talk, the only time that we're ever afraid is when we are separate from God. The only time that because when we are unified, the only time we could ever possibly be afraid is if we thought we were alone. But the moment that the separation ends and we feel our unification with spirit, life force, then we can breathe. So it was nice, you know,
like
that's
that.
the only time when we're afraid is our separation from
Well,
good.
and for any of us that have been really sick, and I mean, I have been sick, and I know that when I was never really afraid. I always knew I would heal, and I just took, I don't know, I can see what they're saying. I can see what they're saying, but I also knew something else deeper within me that no matter what, I would be okay, no matter what.
Jamie wants
and-
to know, how do we read the handout?
Oh, I'm
We-
going to send it to them.
Uh,
I'm
n-
sending you everything.
Next time we'll send it ahead of time, Jamie.
Yeah.
It's so nice to talk to you through Rob. It's
Yeah.
like channeling. Rob is channeling Jamie.
Yeah. We will send you the handout.
I haven't lost my humor all the
I'll
way.
even
you guys.
send it to everybody so they have a digital copy of it. How's that? And then you don't have to save a bunch of paper.
Nice.
Well, I'm trying to avoid you having to print it, but I was trying to be nice, actually. Okay. Okay, so, all right. There are slight differences in the branches of New Thought, but the one thing that remains the same is the reliance on principle. The divine is present in and through everything, and there is a law of cause and effect that responds to our minds. That is when somebody says to you, what's principle? Stay on principle. They'll say, I stayed on principle. That's the principle, that the divine is in everything. It's in the COVID-19. It's in everything. It doesn't leave because an experience is happening. And through everything, and there is a law of cause and effect that responds to our minds. That's the whole principle of New Thought. And that's the whole principle of spiritual mind treatment. That. Spiritual truth cannot belong to any one individual, but being universal in its essence must belong to anyone who uses it. So in other words, nobody can say this is the truth and I've got it and you don't. Or, yeah. It belongs to everything. That actually, Ernest Holmes says that a lot. I've read that a lot from him. That, yeah. And then I just wanted you to know the difference between New Thought and New Age. And although this New Thought probably is like the coming of the New Age, but when we talk about New Age in the sense that was happening during the 80s, that's not New Thought. Because New Age in that sense, like when you start to rely on outside sources like crystals and other things that came with the New Age, which I was a big part of in the 80s. It was part of my journey and my road. And that's why when people tell me about it now, I'm like, I already did that. And I'm here now. And there's nothing wrong with it.
I did a lot of it.
I know, I've got my crystal on, but but if I felt like if I didn't wear this crystal, something was going to happen to me, that would be a New Agey kind of thing, which
if you
and
lost it.
where New Thought is everything comes from within, and we are the sole proprietors of our soul, and we are the ones in charge, and we don't need anything on the outside. And what do I say? They're tools, and there's nothing wrong with tools, but don't let them be crutches. An outer, yeah, an inner. Yeah, New Age is like relying on the outside, and New Thought is everything's coming from within.
That's my favorite quote of yours. I think
know.
you should coin it. There's nothing wrong with it as tools as long as it
They
doesn't
don't
become a
crutches.
crutch. And that's what sometimes it does, right? A crutch, you got to sometimes let go of that crutch after a while.
Well, it's like Dumbo's feather, like when you had to hold a feather in order to fly. Now, are we gonna be stopping this tape, or should we just keep going? Oh, okay. So if you want to take a break, you'll just have to go
Before
take it.
Ernest?
Well, no, we can't stop it. Is
Oh.
that what you're saying? We can't stop it at all? Oh,
I got it. Oh,
okay, that's fine. All right. All right. Okay, don't look at this. This is Rob's.
No,
I'm going to give this
this
to
was
you.
a practitioner and his assignment.
Yeah,
So-
I'm gonna give you this, and you can study it, okay? But we're definitely not going through it tonight. But what it's all right. But what you're gonna do is keep it with your notes, and I can again send you a digital copy. I'm fine. I got it. Oh,
Oh, right. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
okay. Well, then you don't need it. But
Well, I bet you don't know where it is.
so the only point I'm going to make from it is that you can look it over. There's another one that's going to come up that's a lot simpler than this one.
Rob?
This one's really complicated. But we're mostly interested in what's happening down at the bottom. Well, kind of up from this side. We're more interested in this side. But if you look back here, you could see, like, this guy's really important, Emanuel Swedenborg. That's like, he was the one that the transcendentalist came down from him. But Meister Eckhart, we quote him a lot. I don't know what's at the top. How come that's not showing? Anyway, you
And
can
Socrates.
see how far it goes
Plato.
back. Yeah, I'm going to, yeah. So we're not going to go all through. You can see how much information there is. I mean, if you really wanted to study this and become a scholar in this philosophy, you could be like,
But
He
I
could
think
be
it
brilliant.
says something more important. It says that we just didn't get off the
Yeah,
orange
that's what
truck
I'm trying to
the,
say,
the other
yes.
day and say, I got an idea. Let's do science of mind. Here it is. It didn't start yesterday.
it didn't start.
Well, we're talking Socrates, baby. It goes all the way
Yeah,
back.
which I have a couple of things. So
Prehistory wisdom.
if you can see, it's like new thought is not really new thought. It basically, the major ideas from the Christian faith or other religions. I mean, it comes from all of that. It's an expression of idealism, which was prevalent at the time, and we'll go into idealism a little bit. But teachings of Jesus, big in New Thought, but not the dogma of Jesus and that the Christianity taught. That's what they were trying to get away from. Certain beliefs as far back as Plato, such as you ought not to attempt to cure the body without the soul. Plato said that. And Socrates, all good and evil, whether in the body or in human nature, originates, as he declared, in the soul. Therefore, if the head and the body are to be well, you must begin by curing the soul. That is the first thing. So you can see it goes back really far. We've been talking about this for a long time. And still we were burning people at the stake for it and everything else. So what's it got to be about? It's got to be about power, right? I think that when I think about it, I go, maybe the whole world is just based on this one culture that just wants power. And as soon as people start to get new fear, yeah, and if we can make people afraid, they won't. So these were the different things that were going on at the time. Yeah, these were the different things that were going on at the time. And I'm talking about, when I'm saying at the time, I'm talking about like in the 1800s when this was all coming to fruition, the early into mid 1800s. So the big Bible authority was Calvinism at the time, and it was like a Bible is the authority, and you don't go off it. That is the thing. And then there was these liberals that came forward, the Unitarian Tritarians, they called themselves. It was faith of the intellectuals, interpreted the Bible by the power of reason. So they were going in and trying to interpret it through their reason, through their head, not taking it like necessarily for what the church was telling them. And they were the only ones that could interpret it, right? The churches. Idealism, some universal mind that materializes as the physical world filled with physical beings. So reality as we know it is mental. Human ideas shape beliefs and values. It's very similar, right? And then the transcendentalists, who we're going to talk about in a moment. And Roseanne will probably be talking more about them. Yes? Well, if they're not there, they might be on the other chart. Which
Yeah, we have
bottom
another.
part
Oh,
she's
yeah,
talking
we
about?
have another chart too.
Wait, which bottom are you talking about? These guys? Oh,
Are you talking about Divine Science and
This, all
United
this
Church
stuff.
of?
yeah, I actually do have some dates for this. but this is all 18 to early 1900s.
It was Rob. It was incomplete when he tried to.
Early 1900s, probably. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But, yeah, I think I have them on the other chart. I didn't think you guys would be that interested in dates.
That was my problem.
And then the transcendentalist, intuition is the basic source of the knowledge of reality, and man is divine. Oh, yeah. Nope. Yeah, transcendentalist. So these were the things, the different views of the time as this was being birthed. The transcendentalists are considered the ones that really started New Thought. You know, Emerson is considered the father of New Thought. Yeah. So New Thought sees as the logical, so on the healing of disease, New Thought sees as the logical implications of their thought, namely the healing of disease. And many who were working practically toward the cure of disease by mental means found no support in religion or philosophy for the methods that they sought to employ. So they weren't doing this in religion at the time.
You weren't laying on hands and doing oil and
Not at that time, not like that. They weren't, no, not.
They
that-
didn't have
they
any
weren't saying,
support at
they might have
all
been
from-
saying, they might have been doing that, but they weren't saying mental healing at all. It was New Thought that these two were combined. It was in the person of Phineas Quimby that they were first linked together in ways which ultimately produced what is known as New Thought today. So that's why he's considered the father of New Thought, the founder of New Thought. Is basically he brought the spiritual and the healing together, but not by laying on of hands. I don't know what they did in laying on of hands back then. I don't know that much about that. Do you?
Well, they did I know they weren't they still trying to exercise bodies and spirits that were in. I mean, that was during that time too.
Maybe before then. I don't know. We'd have to look it up.
You know, like come out.
I think what they're trying to
Demons,
say,
yeah.
though, is that it was Phineas Quimby linked together the religious with the spirituality with healing and mental healing. In fact, he thinks he used what he called methods of Jesus to heal. So, but we'll be doing him on another night. He's like one of my favorite people. So the transcendentalists. Now, so they were a local group, and their big thing was that they were actually in revolt against the church, Unitarian Church. I know. When we study Emerson, the night Roseanne's here, we'll hear more about that. But they were a group of people, and they weren't really formal. They were meeting and discussing things and writing. Obviously, they were writers. Henry David Thoreau was one of them, and Emerson, and all these people, and different other ones too. But their big thing was that they were going against the churches and their fundamental beliefs, and saying, we can use our minds. God is in everyone. God is divine. And transcendentalism claimed for all men that which was claimed for the selected few in Christianity. So they were saying everybody has this. It's not just a selected few people. There is a light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world, that there is a faculty in all, the most degraded and the most ignorant, the most obscure, to perceive spiritual truth when distinctly present. And they also believe that the ultimate appeal in all moral questions is not a jury of scholars, a hierarchy of divines, or the prescriptions of a creed, but to the common sense of the human race. So we all have that intuition that within us that knows everything that we need to know. We don't need anyone else to tell us what to do or what's morally correct. We know what's morally correct. We don't.
But can
We
you
don't have
imagine
to
how
have
frightening that was during that time to the powers that be? The churches, the Catholic Church, the churches that were saying that we have the control, we have the one person that can tell you, that's outside of yourself, and that they're saying that the man that's in the gutter, the drunk over there that you're condemning, has the same abilities as Spirit, God. You can see, witches were saying the same, during that time too, that they were saying, I have power. I have power of thoughts and power of this and that. So yeah, I can see why they were in basements. Yeah, we
That
come
would-
from good stock, people.
So, in my years of Bible study, the Old Testament of the Bible, the reason the Hebrews thought they needed priests and kings is because every man did what he thought was right in his own eyes, which is exactly what we say is the right thing to do, but they didn't want that. They wanted that overall control, and that's a long time before Jesus.
Right. And that's interesting that you would say
Point.
that, because that was one of the things that always bothered my mother and her husband and my father and stuff, was that we could do whatever we wanted to do. And we didn't have to follow rules. We knew we could do whatever we want to do. But what they weren't understanding is that, like I said, when something's right and when something's wrong. It doesn't mean you can do whatever you do. When you have a law of cause and effect within you that's going to give you back what you put out, you can't do. It's a law of liberty, but it's not a law of license. You don't get to do whatever you want to do. Well, you can, but it's going to mostly come up back and kick you in the butt somehow, right? And we all know, we've all been there.
Religion takes that away from you, though. I mean, religion was made to control people, really. I mean, talking of the Roman Catholics, we didn't grow up with something with this kind of freedom of choice. No, you believed in a certain creed, you believed in a certain dogma, and you follow that. And anything outside of that is called Protestant, and we didn't dare deal with them, right? So, yeah.
What did you call it, Protestant?
Yeah, they're Protestants. I didn't even know there were different sects of Protestants.
I mean, why do you,
Outside is Protestants, not Catholics.
why do you think they built those big cathedrals to intimidate people?
Yeah.
To awe, like, oh my God, God is going to come down and strike you if you don't like.
Right. So,
That's it.
so
That's interesting.
So the thing is, though, how do we talk about it without seeming judgmental toward these people, too? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like Ernest Holmes says, don't give somebody a God that unless you can give them a better one, because everybody's God to them is the best God they have. There's some people, they would be lost if they were in this class and we told them stuff like this. They would be terrified. They would like, what? Somebody's
I
not
have
going to
that
tell me
power?
what to do. I have that power. So there's a place for everything, I guess. There's a place for everything. So my thing always is, if you're infringing it on another person, then it becomes like, if I want to think this way and somebody's telling me, no, you can't, you're wrong, then that's right. But I don't want to make them wrong either. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do it without being judgmental, but it's hard not to.
I think if it's safe just to tell what you believe. But my big thing is, so what do you believe? This is what I believe. And without anything around it, just that's what I believe. Sometimes it's very difficult because somebody will say something and you want to kind of be in the tribe, so you don't really say anything. And now I'm learning to say, oh, that's great. I don't believe that. That's not what my belief system is, and that's okay. So what do you believe? This blah 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 blah, and then you let it be.
But yeah, I just don't get into arguments with anybody. I try to find
Tell
the
your
common
truth,
ground.
there is-
But yeah, but
That's part of our acceptance. I think we can accept other beliefs. It's just that it doesn't have to be forced on us, right? Or on anyone. Yeah.
it's interesting. And, we can choose to believe this or not believe this. It's all, this is just history, of course. The Transcendental Movement, fundamentally an expression of a religious radicalism in revolt against irrational conservatism, a protest of the human spirit. It's like, that's why they're called spirits in rebellion, because it's like, right?
You weren't the boss of me.
It's like a revolt.
You're not the boss of me.
Like, wait a minute. These guys were like going, wait a minute. And there were women too. Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean I don't have my own mind? What do you mean you get to tell me what to do? What do you mean I'm a worm of the dust? What do you mean I'm going to be damned forever? I mean, the order of truth transcends the sphere of external senses, the supremacy of mind over matter. We already said
Hold
this
on
50
one
million
second, Rita.
times. Yes.
It's kind of like Martin Luther 2.0, Because that's what he did. He just said, forget, this is ridiculous. But now this is a few hundred years later, and, this is...
Well, what I've been finding lately that is very interesting, it ties right in with this, is that certain things, I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to get into stuff that's happening, but the biggest thing is it's okay to question. Questioning is what made them radical. Just because they said, You know, I don't understand. You know, it would be like somebody saying, you know, I heard that you didn't really, that the mask thing doesn't have all 100% validity. Blah, blah, blah. They're just asking questions. They're not saying that it is or isn't, but, well, you know, well, like when I was a Catholic, I said, now how can there be three persons in one God? And then the nun would go, you ask so many questions. Why do you do that? And her rosary is like going crazy. You know, yeah, it's like, yeah. I know, right? So you ask anything, it's like, how come God doesn't like Jews? Nobody said he doesn't like Jews. Jesus was a Jew. Who told you that? I don't know, the Bible, I'm confused. The one that says King of the Jews. I don't know, call me stupid.
I could never understand that as someone, you know, it's like,
Right.
I know.
That's total dogma. When they,
Well-
my mom told me at 85, as a Catholic, she goes, did you know that Jesus had sisters? And then she goes,
might have had a wife.
And she goes, but she wasn't a virgin anymore after the sisters in his other family. There was only one virgin birth. I was like, wow.
Oh, God.
Can I ask another question?
Well, that's why it's like if you're going through the world with blinders on and you're not willing to look at anything, then it would be very startling to have somebody say something to you. It would be scary, right? All right?
Emma, that's going to go.
scary. It was in fact comfortable.
Right.
You had that, right?
That's
it
gonna
was
go-
comfortable as a kid to
Right.
have that, and everyone else's, they were crazy and we weren't crazy. Oh, way. I mean, of course, around probably in my late 20s, really, because no, there's a period
Yeah,
of time where
exactly.
you separate from it and you just don't care.
Right, right.
But you don't question it because that's like just a big part of you.
Right.
But then you start going, oh my gosh, I just don't believe in it anymore.
Right.
I can't believe the story.
Right.
And it doesn't affect me anymore. So what does? And my spirit, I think my spiritual life was just sort of, 10 and below.
Right.
And you just kind of live with because of who you are until you start looking for that spirituality that nourishes you.
I think
That's how.
I think a good theory of this would be the reason people don't ask questions is because they're afraid they might get the answers. I mean, there is, no, not you. I'm just saying there is a thing about that. It's like if I don't know and I don't question, it's like that's the funniest thing that'll go down. It should be stand up. Who told you that Jesus was a Jew? I don't know. It was written on top of his crucifix. But you don't quit. I mean, what a great piece of stand up. Who told you? I don't know. It was above the cross.
And then the second part is Virgin Mary. And then all of a sudden you go into class in your sex education class in junior high school and you go, oh, really? Well, what's the Virgin Mary? I mean, now you start
Right.
questioning things. And how does it all work, right?
Something you're not any longer, lady.
All right, guys, we're going crazy
go.
now. We're spirits in rebellion.
We,
All right.
Look at us. We're all going, take it down. He was a Jew. Oh, that's true.
I would have been mutiny
That's
all
true.
of you. Mute, mute,
Mute,
mute.
mute, 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 mute.
Ah,
What'd you say?
is he the only Protestant? No.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going. Oh, this is really good. The women will love this. They championed women. That was it. Souls were of no one particular sex. Men and women were alike with all their human capacities, longings, and destinies, and should enjoy equal rights. Emerson was the most influential person on the New Thought movement and was considered the father of New Thought. But we really were the first to bring women into clergy and everything else. I mean, when we study Emma, like the first year of her thing, she graduated like 25 students in her university, and like 20 of them were women. So, and I think Henry David Thoreau was the one that was into the helping, didn't believe in slavery and all of that. So they were progressive in that way, and I think that's wonderful, right? So they were very, well, it makes sense, right? So here's the other chart.
This is a little more relaxed
But
version.
I don't
of
know
the
where
other.
this one came from. I don't think Rob did this chart. Where's the, you did this one? You sure? All right. Okay, I have to give Rob credit then. Pass it out. This one's the one that's more, that makes, like, is easier to read. Yeah.
That one is like a man's mind.
Yeah. Okay, and
You
just so you can look at this. Can you zoom in on this so the people online can see? I'm sorry, guys, I should have sent it to you ahead of time, but
Forgive us,
crazy
Jamie.
day,
We
forgive
still
me.
feel you there.
all right, you'll
Ask
get
a
it.
question
You'll
so
get
we
it
can write
later.
it down.
All right. So, as you can see, Phineas is at the top there, but above him is Anton Mesmer. But this is interesting because Phineas taught Mary Baker Eddy, and we're going to talk about that later. And Mary Baker Eddy, basically, the story goes that she stole everything from him and tried to claim it as her own. But she taught Emma Curtis, but Emma Curtis couldn't handle being under Mary. See, Mary Baker Eddy went away from New Thought because she was, basically, her way was the only way. And she had her scripture, and her scripture was the scripture, and people weren't allowed to think anything
No
else.
editing,
There was
nothing
no
to touch it.
editing, no, don't touch it, that's the scripture. It's kind of like the Bible's the Bible. So she, yeah, it's called The Science of Health. I can't remember. We'll find it when we do Mary Baker Eddy. We're going to do her. But she was powerful, in healing, and Christian Science is they're definitely healers. But she taught she worked with Emma Curtis Hopkins, right? And Emma Curtis basically pulled away from her, more than likely because of her kind of dictatorial attitude. Emma Curtis, we're going to talk about her later, so I wouldn't go
She
too much into her.
questioned, by the
She
way.
probably
Did lots of questions.
Yeah, she probably had lots of questions.
Emma did.
She
and
broke
that's
away
why-
from her. She was like her chief editor and everything, but she
Yeah.
broke away. And then she started her own thing. And she's the one, Emma Curtis is the one that taught all these people. All the New Thought people,
Including,
that's what she,
teacher of teachers,
she
right?
was the teacher of teachers. She's considered the teacher of teachers. She's taught the Fillmores. She taught Ernest for a very short period of time, Emily Caddy, who was part of Unity, and then Divine Science. I'm not sure if she taught these guys or whether they just were off branch. I'd have to look that up. Well, we're going to do them later. And then Emmett Fox.
No,
So-
she does have a direct to the divine science.
Yeah,
I
to
think,
Divine
all of
Science. I
them.
don't think she does to Emmett Fox because I think Emmett
No.
Fox came off of Divine Science.
Yes, absolutely.
But this is a better chart because these are the actual people that you'll have to know. And then these guys up here,
and they all
was
look
kind
like
of
they're
where-
related.
these guys are where they're the influencers. Anton Mesmer and Ralph Waldo and Thomas Troward are the influencers.
Rebel.
Yeah, the rebels.
I said they all look alike. I think it's because it's black and white, but
I
Right.
know, right?
So what would you say is the difference, is the basic difference of religious science and divine science?
so Jamie and the people she asked, what's the difference between divine science and what? And religious science.
Okay, well, I'm just going to give you a quick answer, and we'll probably do it more later. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say the difference between divine science, and you can ask, who you can ask? Walt Weiss, because he's a divine science minister. And
He
you've
is
heard
indeed.
him pray here. Now, he's learned how to do spiritual mind treatment. On divine science, their major thing is the practicing of the presence. Like they practice the presence of God.
Mm-hmm.
That's their thing. They practice the presence. So I don't. Yes, they all believe that God is within, and we all believe the same thing, that we can heal with the mind. Yes, they all believe in that. Unity, the only difference I know of unity, and what I always say, is that it's more Bible-based. But they don't study the Bible in the way that the Christians study the Bible. They study the Bible more in a metaphysical Bible, but they use the Bible. That's
And
their
Ron-
book.
And Ron Stover knows that because he's
And-
married
yeah,
to a,
Suzanne Stover
Unity
would be a good
minister.
person to talk to about that. But we're going to do that more later. But they all believe in the same thing: healing with the mind.
Mm-hmm.
The presence of God is within us, and it's just a different approach. That's all.
yes, Melissa.
New Thought, Divine Science then? Yes. Oh, okay.
The only one that's not New Thought is Mary Baker Eddy.
And that's because they booted her out. But she actually,
They didn't
they
boot her out.
booted her. But
Well, if you read the things I read about her, I would have
no,
voted
no,
her
I
out
get
too.
it. I get it. No, she tried to have the kind of a Mormonism feel. But the thing is, because of her, we have a lot of our spiritual mind treatment.
Right.
Because that's where it started with that, and I'll tell you later with Ernest, but turned it into steps. So,
Right.
but yeah, but
No, the reason she's not considered New Thought is because she's not open at the top. She's not, like, she doesn't believe that there's more revelation. She believes the revelation stopped with her. All right, so you get it?
So you can't go, well, now we've advanced to this. She thinks that you have to keep reading the book over and over and over. Very Bible. Very.
Right. I used to sing in a
No,
in a
it's
in
not.
a Christian Science church, and they pulled the thing out. I sang these hymns and led them in these hymns, and then they would just read from her book, and that was their service. So I mean, that's it. But they are great healers, and our spiritual mind treatment comes from that.
They wouldn't
So
do a talk.
No.
They wouldn't get up and say, "This is how I feel about what I just read."
Jamie loves us. Okay.
We love Jamie.
Is Gina there too, or just Jamie?
Is Gina there?
No, I don't know. Okay. Hopefully she hasn't. Did she text you, Ron? No? Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, so there we go. I think it's Patrick's turn. Do we want to take a break? Can we take a break? Okay.
Do you need a break?
Yeah, all right.
Okay. We might get out early tonight, you guys. It all depends on Patrick. I know you're going to find it hard to believe that I could, but Ernest Holmes, I wasn't prepared for a long time, so I've got a short Ernest Holmes. So we might get out by 8-ish. I know, but all that's left is Ernest, or do you have something else? Okay. Anyway.